Chapter 277. Almost within a second, the sword light that Li Daoxian had thrown out had arrived in front of Yi Chen. The sword light did not have the slightest vibration. It was shaped like a crescent moon, and the tip of the crescent moon carried a thunderous power. It was impossible to describe how fast and sharp that sword attack was. Just as the sword light was about to reach Yi Chen made his move. He held the Star Scar sword tightly with both of his hands, waving it at a speed that was even faster than the sword light. Most of the people could not even see how he waved the sword, or what angle he had chosen. Seal. This sword attack was not about breaking, but about blocking. Li Daoxian's sword light was way too fast and violent. Two powerful sword attacks would not be able to block it in advance. Only the simplest fast sword poetic perspective would be able to do it. However, the power of the fast sword poetic perspective was way weaker than the lone peak kill and the sky-shattering clouds poetic perspective. It only focused on speed, and aimed to perform the fastest sword art with the fastest reaction speed. Shoo! Countless sparks splashed everywhere. Because of the inertia, all of these sparks were shooting towards Yi Chen's direction, wrapping him up in the air. It was like a flower of fire was blooming towards him. It was unimaginably beautiful. Li Daoxian's sword light had not disappeared yet. It started to bounce violently, as if it was trying to break through Yi Chen's blocking and give him a fatal attack. Ting! The Star Scar sword pulled back a little bit, but then attacked back at an even faster speed, hitting the same spot where the sword light had been. The sword light was broken with a sound that sounded like metal breaking. The next second, two beams of light, one on the left and one on the right, had cut out a deep mark on the platform behind Yi Chen, stretching for dozens of meters. Silent. It turns out that the power of the sword light was compressed to an extreme extent, cutting off its connection with the air and the outside world at the same time. Sound was transmitted through the air, so naturally, it couldn't be transmitted in creating a man-made silent world. Yi Chen's blocking was not for nothing. Through the vibration that came from the sword light and the Star Scar sword when they clashed, as well as the feeling of his soul power, Yi Chen had discovered the secret of the silent attack in a very short period of time. However, knowing was one thing. Wanting to use this move out of thin air was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. For example, everyone knew that by compressing Jin Qi to a certain degree, one could kill an astral-reaching realm warrior, or even a Sea of Souls realm warrior. But no one had such a powerful control over it, since it would be even harder than becoming a life and death realm warrior. There were many simple mysteries in the world, but most of them were useless because ordinary methods could not be used at all. Therefore, techniques came into being. Skill could be described as a shortcut. It could make it easier for a martial artist to grasp some difficult things and do things that they could not do in the past. The silent killing move contained an extreme technique. Through this technique, the sword light could be compressed to the extreme, causing the speed and power to increase sharply and killing silently. He blocked the sword. After performing his silent ace attack, Li Daoxian felt like all of his energy had been sucked out of him. Seeing that Yi Chen had blocked out that sword light without a scratch, he could not help but be shocked. However, before this shock could spread out, he saw that sword light had been cut in half. It had been cut in half. Slowly letting out a breath, Yi Chen smiled and said, "This sword attack is very powerful. Unfortunately, it is not perfect yet. Otherwise, I would not be able to break it." The sword light that was condensed like steel was extremely tough. Even Yi Chen could not cut it in half at once. He could only do it twice, since he did not have Mo Yan's sky demon eyes, which allowed him to see the weaknesses with his eyes. In fact, if it were Mo Yan, he would not be able to do anything either, since his reaction speed would not even be half of Yi Chen's. Regardless, the silent killing move was indeed a killing move. If it could be perfected in the future, if Yi Chen wanted to block it out, he would have to learn the fast sword poetic perspective to the extreme. "I have lost. You are indeed powerful. You can compete with Yan Qihua." Li Daoxian knew that Yan Qihua was still holding back some of his power. Being able to cut off a strand of his hair might have been due to luck. Yi Chen being able to take on the silent killing move without being hurt meant that he could compete with Yan Qihua. Awa! A dragon roar was heard. The dragon-shaped shadow outside Yi Chen's body had devoured Li Daoxuan's dragon fountain qi and had grown again. It was now 23 meters tall, looking very majestic. Right then, the audience had already started to discuss. Beating Li Daoxian, Yi Chen would be the #1 sword artist among the young generation in the whole South Ridra region. What a surprise! Indeed. Right now, even Li Daoxian had lost to Yi Chen. Who would be the next one? Would he beat his opponent, or would he stop his winning streak? In everyone's eyes, Yi Chen had turned from a dark horse into a super dark horse. He had managed to get into the top 10 from the elimination competitions, and it was not over yet. Right now, he had already beaten 4 top young warriors. Gu Yuyan, who had not fought with him before, would definitely not be his opponent. Then there were still Si Kongsheng, Yan Qihua, Lin Yin and Morong Qingcheng. No matter who he beat, it would make his reputation even brighter. Even if he lost, he would at least be ranked 5th in the Hidden Dragon rank, which was not something that normal people could fight for. The leader of the Heartless Martial School side, even Li Daoxian, had lost to Yi Chen in this kind of condition. What else could he say? The #1 young sword artist in the whole South Ridra region would have nothing to do with the Heartless Martial School anymore. But it was good for him. Without competition, there would be no motivation. After this battle, Daoxian might be able to reach the next level. He is indeed a powerful opponent. Yan Qihua had never looked so serious before. Yi Chen was way too sharp. If he did not use all of his power, he would most likely lose. The good thing was that this battle had allowed him to see a lot of things, and he had a better understanding of Yi Chen's bottom line. Li Daoxian, you have helped me a lot, Yan Qihua thought to himself. The 33rd battle, Yan Qihua against Tuabaku. Compared to the battle for the #1 young sword artist, the battle between Yan Qihua and Tuabaku had also attracted everyone's attention. Although Tuabaku had lost to Yi Chen, everyone knew that with his powerful defense, it would be hard for Yi Chen to beat him completely in a real battle. Great! Another powerful one. That rich Zhen Qi was quickly hidden inside his body, sticking to the surface of Tuabaku's skin. It looked like a layer of dark blue light membrane. An excited look flashed through his eyes as he threw out his Ruin 18 fist art. Chin! Yan Qihua took out his long blade, which was covered in a red flame. That fire element Zhen Qi had condensed into a flame that was different from Lin Yun's. It seemed to be purer and more powerful. As Yan Qihua threw out a blade attack, the area in front of him had been sliced open. Boom! Tuabaku's fist aura had not been pushed to its limit before it was broken by that blade attack. That aggressive flame drowned Tuabaku within. Dragon World. The flame was broken open, and Tuabaku shot out from within. He threw out a killing attack in the air, and that massive dragon-shaped qi swallowed Yan Qihua, who was not far away. Chapter 278. Crack. The burning hot blade light flashed once, and the dragon-shaped qi was cut in half. Yan Qihua flew out from the crack and threw out 8 blade attacks towards Tuabaku. The 8 blade lights were extremely powerful, without any pattern. They were like 8 wild horses that had escaped from their reins, making it hard for people to predict where they would land. Boom! 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 Tuabaku had dodged 5 of the blade light, but he could not avoid the other 3 no matter how hard he tried. He had to take it head-on. He roared and his body flew backward while throwing out an uppercut punch towards Yan Qihua. Of course, it was not a normal uppercut punch. Under Yan Qihua's feet, a dragon-shaped qi appeared out of nowhere and blew him into the sky. That sharp claws and teeth had almost torn apart his protective Zhen Qi layer. All of the people watching the battle could not help but be shocked. That attack did not seem to be that powerful, but it was extremely hard to defend against. They did not expect that Tuabaku would still have another attack, but they did not know why he did not use it on Yi Chen. Tuabaku, who had landed on the ground, made a face. Of course, he wanted to use it on Yi Chen, but he had never fought with Yi Chen before, so he did not know how powerful he was. It would not be easy to lock onto his body. Up until now, no one had managed to touch Yi Chen's body. In his opinion, the scariest thing about Yi Chen was not anything else, but that insanely powerful control. Trying to play tricks with him, he would definitely kill you. Fire Dragon Cut. Standing in the sky, Yin Chihua threw out a blade attack. That fiery red blade chi exploded in the air, turning into a sharp fire dragon, attacking towards Tuabaku. Tuabaku lifted up his palm that had turned dark blue and pressed onto the head of the fire dragon. That powerful palm power had slapped the fire dragon until it cracked open. Break! As the palm power was pushed out, the fire dragon had been shattered. Flame Cut. Seizing this slight opportunity, Yin Chihua appeared in front of Tuabaku within a second. He waved his long blade upwards, not only blowing away Tuabaku, but also shooting out a bright red flame that landed on Tuabaku's body, bringing up a rain of fire. Tuabaku did not dare to waste any more time as he endured the flame and threw an uppercut punch at Yin Chihua. Learning from experience, Yin Chihua had long been prepared for this move. He held his saber in a reverse grip and struck the ground with blazing flames. Rumble! The dragon-shaped chi and the saber aura collided and finally dispersed. Let's see how you block this blade. The long blade stabbed into the platform, but Yin Chihua did not pull it out right away. Instead, he pushed his wrist and opened up a blade mark on the ground. That sky-reaching blade light had blown Tuabaku hundreds of meters away. He landed heavily on the dark blue light wall, bringing up a series of ripples. However, before that, Tuabaku had also returned an attack. That powerful fist power had landed on the surface of his protective Zhen Qi layer, which had boiled up Yin Chihua's chi and blood. The winner had been decided. Tuabaku had lost this battle, but he himself was only slightly wounded. His insane defense had once again amazed everyone. The 65th round of battles had ended. After resting for an hour, the 66th round began. In this round of battles, the top 4 young warriors were Bing Ling, Gu Yuyan, Yin Chihua and Mo Yen. Bing Ling against Gu Yuyan, and Yin Chihua against Mo Yen. Gu Yuyan's power was still a bit weak. Even though she had the Stone King's top martial art, the Stone King body protective fist art, it was still hard for her to block out Bing Ling's Icebreak fist art. After exchanging more than 30 attacks, she was beaten by Bing Ling with only one punch. As for the battle between Yin Chihua and Mo Yen, there was no suspense at all. It ended with Yin Chihua's complete victory. However, the 18th battle was very eye-catching. The contestants were the super popular Morong Qingqing and Li Daoxian, who had lost to Yi Chen. Right then, the battle had already entered the most crucial moment. The winner would be decided within a second. Silent Sword. Facing Morong Qingqing's Sky Demon Power Field and Sky Demon Great Palm Print, Li Daoxian was having a hard time. No matter how powerful his sword art was, or how powerful his sword intent was, it was still hard for him to break through Morong Qingqing's defense. If it was not being messed up by the Sky Demon Great Palm Print, then he would be hit by that horrifying power field cut. Without exaggeration, Morong Qingqing was definitely the most troublesome warrior to deal with among the young generation, because no matter if it was Xikong Sheng, Yin Chihua, or even Yi Chen, they were all battling with real martial arts. Battling styles like the Sky Demon Great Art were really rare. After battling for a long time, Li Daoxian found a flaw in Morong Qingqing's defense and performed his silent ace attack. Pooh! Morong Qingqing's reaction speed was not that crazy after all. Before he could perform his power field cut, he had already been hit by the sword light. The protective Sky Demon power field was twisted, and Morong Qingqing's face went pale. His body backed out for a couple of steps. What was worth noting was that the sword light had not used all of its power yet. In that critical moment, Morong Qingqing had used the twisting power of the protective Sky Demon power field to divert the sword light, making it go past his shoulder. Otherwise, under that sword attack, he would not just be looking pale, he would at least be badly wounded. No need to fight anymore. I have lost. Although he was not wounded this time, it did not mean that he would be able to next time. So Morong Qingqing gave up right away. Li Daoxian let out a breath and forced a smile. I really do not want to battle with you. The top 2 martial arts of the Sky Demon Martial School had always been famous for their toughness. For example, Mo Yan's Sky Demon art. After training the Sky Demon eyes, he would be able to see the weaknesses of his opponents. However, In Mo Yan's hands, it did not seem to be able to bring out its full power. And then there was the Sky Demon Great Art. This martial art's unique Sky Demon power field was even more difficult to deal with than the Sky Demon Eyes. Within a radius of 10 meters, the whole area would be covered by the power field. Plus, the user could use the power of the Sky Demon power field through his palm to reach a very far distance. It was a nightmare for normal warriors. The 24th battle, Yi Chun against Lin Yun. The fourth pair of top young warriors was indeed Yi Chun and Lin Yun. Lin Yun had lost to Murong Qingqing more or less because of his carelessness. If he had not used 10 attacks to limit himself, he would not have been able to use all of his ace attacks in a hurry, which had allowed Murong Qingqing to turn the tables in such a short time, without any chance to fight back. Of course, whether or not Lin Yun had more power than Murong Qingqing, Yi Chun did not care too much. Under the same conditions, Lin Yun would not be a threat to him at all. It was not only because of the difference in cultivation, but also because Yi Chun was not afraid of people like Lin Yun. Let's do it. With the Star Scar sword in his hand, Yi Chun and Lin Yun stood 100 meters apart. Lin Yun looked very gloomy. Losing to Murong Qingqing had made him more cautious. However, Yi Chun had given him a lot of pressure. Before the last 9 battles, he had never considered Yi Chun as a real opponent. He thought that Yi Chun was just SOZO. Beating Li Daoxian is not that big of a deal. Just lose. The Skyfall attack required the Sky Fire Force Spear to store up its power. Lin Yun held the iron spear in his hand and threw it out. The red flame rushed towards Yi Chun, turning into layers of fire waves in the air. Ignoring the aggressive fire waves, Yi Chun extended his body and rushed towards the fire waves. Midway, he took out his Star Scar sword. A dark sword light flashed once before disappearing, separating the fire waves. Chapter 279. Clang. Sparks shot up into the sky. Lin Yun's Skyfall attack, which he had been waiting for, had been broken apart by Yi Chun with one sword attack. It was just when he had used up all of his previous power. With one sword attack, Yi Chun jumped into the air. The Star Scar sword in his hand was extremely powerful and full of explosive power. That intense sword light was like thunder and lightning, like an ocean of clouds. Every movement gave people the feeling that it was unstoppable. Damn! Dark flame kill. Lin Yun was shocked and angry at the same time. He had not expected that Yi Chun would change his battling style and become so aggressive. In the previous battles, he was obviously the type of person who would counter attacks as they came, and rarely took the initiative to attack. Seeing that his battling rhythm had been completely broken, Lin Yun did not even have the chance to perform his ace attacks. Without a choice, he replaced his iron spear with his left hand, accumulating an egg-sized dark red fireball, and attacking towards Yi Chun. In fact, Yi Chun right now was the real Yi Chun. He was full of attacking power, showing off his power, and cutting through all kinds of obstacles. Any opponent that was in his way would be cut down by his sword without any hesitation. But before that, he had wanted to learn something from the others to enrich himself. That was why he had hidden his power and countered attacks as they came. Right now these experiences were more or less enough. As for the few people who had not fought against each other before, they did not need to compete with each other. After all, up until now, everyone had exposed all of their ace attacks. They had seen everything that they needed to see, and there was not much that they needed to think about. The fireball exploded violently, bringing up the chi everywhere. Shadow explosion. Countless overlapping shadows exploded. Yi Chun's real body flashed once, avoiding the exploding range of the fireball. He appeared on the right side of Lin Yun. He slightly shook his wrist, and that thunder-like sword light poured out. Each sword attack seemed to have been measured perfectly, and each attack was deadly. Pooh! 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 Lin Yun's protective Zhenqi layer had been weakened to only a thin layer, which made him shocked. He was different from Tua Baku, who had put most of his Zhenqi on his skin, so his protective Zhenqi layer was not that powerful. However, Lin Yun was the exact opposite. His protective Zhenqi layer had definitely reached the 11th level of his martial art, which was very powerful. However, under Yi Chun's continuous sword light, it was showing signs of breaking down. How could he not be shocked? Fire essence shield. More burning Zhen Qi poured out, forming into a shield shadow made of flames in front of Lin Yun. The shield shadow was thick and heavy, covered in patterns. Because of the intense Zhen Qi pressing against each other, clear sparks kept shooting out of the surface of the shield. Bang! The sword light was finally repelled by the fire elemental shield, unable to advance any further. Quick sword. His footwork was unpredictable. Yichen took a step forward and got close to him. The star scar sword in his hand moved at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye. Dang! The shield shadow had been blown away, and the sword light was extremely sharp, pointing right at Lin Yun's chest. You are too much. Lin Yun was furious. Since the beginning of the Hidden Dragon rank competitions, there had never been anyone who could not even give him a chance to attack. The anger in his heart grew as he performed the Skyfall Great Art of the Skyfall Martial School. A total of 5 shield shadows were formed outside of his body, blocking all of the blind spots. Yi Chen's eyebrows flicked as he changed his sword movement from the quick sword to the lone peak kill. The poetic perspective of his 60% sword intent spread out, covering the area where Lin Yun was standing. I do not believe that you can break through my fire yuan shield. Under the influence of the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill, Lin Yun's reaction speed had obviously slowed down a bit. Right then he did not have the time to dodge. His right palm cracked open, blood splashing out. He was ready to take on Yi Chen's attack head-on, and at the same time, give him a fatal attack. Shoo! What was out of Lin Yun's expectation was that Yi Chen had backed out without any warning. It made Lin Yun feel depressed, as if he had just punched into the air. Even the blood fire break that he had been cultivating in his hand had almost been shattered. But right then Yi Chen, who had backed out for dozens of meters, threw out another attack. Sky-shattering clouds. Holding the sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen's clothes danced in the air as he threw out a sword attack. Lin Yun's face looked extremely hideous. The blood on his right hand had condensed into a bloody spear tip. As he waved his right hand, the spear was shot out. Burning flames shot up into the sky. Thunder and lightning were mixed together, and the wind was roaring. The two completely different ace attacks had been combined together. Any clasping Yuan realm warriors who touched it would be killed instantly. Break! The ace attacks had cancelled out each other. Yi Chen's body had exploded again. Dozens of shadows flew towards Lin Yun. All of a sudden, Lin Yun could not even tell which one was Yi Chen's real body, and which one was the Zhen Qi shadow. Without a sound, a sword stabbed into the gap between the fire yuan shield and landed on Lin Yun's shoulder, bringing up a stream of blood. What a powerful attack! First, he had used up Lin Yun's ace attack. Then he had killed him with one attack, leaving him no chance to fight back. Li Daoxian took a deep breath as he thought to himself. Pap. The leader of the Skyfall Martial School had a bad look on his face. The armrest of his chair had been cracked by his grip. This brat is indeed cunning. Right next to him, the headmaster of the Skyfall Martial School did not know what to say. He could only say this after a long while. The leader of the Skyfall Martial School sneered, but did not say anything. After devouring Lin Yun's dragon fountain qi, the dragon-shaped shadow on Yi Chen's body had expanded to an unprecedented height. It reached 25 meters, catching up with Yin Qihua and Xikong Sheng. Lin Yun looked down at the tiny sword hole on his shoulder. He still could not believe that he had lost, and he had nowhere to vent his anger. On the judge's seat, all of the judges looked at each other and announced Yi Chen as the winner of the battle. Next was the battle between Xikong Sheng and Tuo Baku. Tuo Baku's power was among the top of the young generation, but his opponent was Xikong Sheng, the king warrior of the young generation of the South Ridra region. If his attacking power did not reach Yin Chihua's level, he would not even have the right to challenge him. So, he had lost the battle without any surprise. The 67th round, the first battle, Morong Qingqing against Yi Chen. Once the 67th battle began, the audience started to get excited. Morong Qingqing and Yi Chen were both very popular among the young generation. Judging only based on popularity, they could be ranked in the top 3. Adding their equally powerful power, it was no doubt that the audience was looking forward to it. On the battling platform, Morong Qingqing was wearing a purple robe with a light veil over her face. Her body was slim, and her pitch-black pupils were like two bright stars, making people unable to move their eyes away. On the other side, Yi Chun was wearing a blue robe, with a long sword hanging on his waist. He looked calm and elegant, as if he was standing alone in the world. At this moment, everyone was stunned by what they saw. Morong Qingqing revealed a light smile. I have not seen you for more than a year. I did not expect you to have improved this much. Winning all the battles, I am afraid that even I would not be able to beat you. It would be a lie to say that she was not surprised. Back in the Three River City of the Spirit Nation, Yi Chun was only an early clasping Yuan realm warrior, and his sword intent had only reached entry level, which was the same as Wei Renjia. But after not seeing each other for more than a year, his sword intent had not only reached 60%, but his sword art and personal cultivation had also increased drastically, reaching an unimaginable level. It had even made Xixing, who had always been quiet, curious. It is just a matter of personal experience, Yi Chun said. Morong Qingqing nodded. Then let's begin. Looking serious, Morong Qingqing immediately pushed her Sky Demon power field. Her left hand performed the Sky Demon catch, while her right hand attacked with the Sky Demon palm. Facing Morong Qingqing's attack, Yi Chun's body flashed, avoiding the Sky Demon catch. At the same time, his Star Scar sword was taken out of its scabbard. The sharp sword chi clashed with Morong Qingqing's Sky Demon palm. The sword chi had been shattered, but Morong Qingqing frowned. In her sight, Yi Chun had performed the separating body art that he had used to beat Lin Yin. His clones were everywhere, stacking on top of each other, making it hard to tell which one was the real one. Sky Demon Strangle. Both of her hands attacked in the air. Morong Qingqing activated her Sky Demon power field and twisted it slightly. Pop, pop, pop. At least 10 Jinqi shadows have been shattered by the Sky Demon power field, clearing out a huge area. But what welcomed her next was a sword light that was as powerful as thunder in the sky. It landed heavily on the protective Sky Demon power field, bringing up waves of ripples and boiling her chi and blood. Power field cut. Morong Qingqing moved her hand as she threw out a power field cut towards where the sword light was coming from. It contained both the positive and negative Sky Demon power field, which was extremely horrifying. It had torn apart the surface of the platform, leaving a deep mark that spread out in a straight line. Swoosh. Another Jinqi shadow had been cut into pieces. Lone peak kill. Yi Chun's real body appeared 10 meters away from Morong Qingqing, right next to the Sky Demon power field. He did not care about the effect of the Sky Demon power field as he flipped his wrist and stabbed in with his Star Scar sword with a determined posture. His poetic perspective covered his opponent perfectly. Who? The sword chi and the Sky Demon power field clashed against each other. The ripples that were created spread out, affecting on both Yi Chun and Morong Qingqing. Morong Qingqing's face turned pale. That second, her reaction speed had been affected, and she did not manage to launch the counterattack at the right time. Instead, she had been attacked by her own Sky Demon power field, which had only wounded her slightly. Meanwhile, Yi Chun had already backed out a bit, so he had only taken some of the remaining ripples of the power field. With only 60% sword intent, it was naturally impossible to break through Morong Qingqing's Sky Demon power field. Yi Chun used his separating shadow flying art to stay 10 meters away from Morong Qingqing. He kept performing his lone peak kill and sky shattering clouds, trying to break the stability of the Sky Demon power field and not give his opponent a chance to breathe. After dozens of attacks, Morong Qingqing's face was getting paler and paler. People had always said that the Sky Demon great art was hard to deal with, but no one knew how hard it was for Yi Chun. He had gotten the upper hand, and she did not even have the chance to fight back. Right now she could feel what Lin Yin was feeling. After another 10 attacks, Morong Qingqing said, "There is no need to fight anymore. I have lost." Hearing her, Yi Chun put his Star Scar sword back into its scabbard and backed out 10 steps. "Thank you." Yi Chun's victory was expected, but it was also unexpected. No one had expected that Yi Chun, who was full of attacking power, would be this powerful. The sky demon power field that even Lin Yun and Li Daoxian could not handle had been broken down by him. Head disciple, this guy is too hard to deal with. Right next to Xikong Sheng, a core disciple from the floating mountain martial school frowned and said. The expression on Xikong Sheng's face was very calm, without any change. He said lightly, his battling experience is not bad. Unfortunately, in front of absolute power, all of this would be meaningless. In his eyes, Yan Qihua could only make him a little bit more serious, and would not pose any threat to him. As for Yi Chun, he was just like Yan Qihua, maybe even weaker. Chapter 280. After Yi Chun had beaten Morong Qingcheng, in the battles between the top young warriors, Mo Yen had used his sky demon eyes to break through Guyan's Stone King body protective fist art. He had won the first victory in the last 9 battles, which had saved a lot of face. Right after that, Bing Ling, who had performed all of her ace attacks, had lost to Tuabaku, who had a powerful defense. What was worth noting was that Bing Ling's ace attack, the ice crystal fist art, was getting better and better. It was not easy for Tuabaku to win. Right now, it was Xikong Sheng versus Li Daoxian. On the battling platform, Li Daoxian kept performing his sword step art, trying his best to avoid Xikong Sheng's powerful fist power. Waiting for the opportunity, he pushed his sword intent to its limit. The sword light shone brightly, and the sword chi was extremely sharp, cutting towards Xikong Sheng's protective Jin Qi at an extreme speed. River Tyrant Fist. With his right hand still behind his back, Xikong Sheng turned his left hand into a fist and threw out a punch. The powerful fist power directly caused the air to ripple like a tide. Pop 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 pop. The sword chi was broken, but the power of the fist did not dissipate. It brushed past Li Daoxuan's flying figure, and heavily hit the dark blue light screen. The light screen swelled outwards as if it couldn't withstand the force, and was about to explode. What level of fist force is this? The ceiling light screen is about to explode. The audience was silent. After a long time, someone said in a trembling voice, the strength of the ceiling light wall is equivalent to an early astral-reaching realm warrior's protective Zhen Yuan layer, so it is not likely to be broken. However, Xikong Sheng's fist power is indeed horrifying. Even the most normal protective Zhen Yuan layer is not something that normal clasping Yuan realm warriors can break. He's too far ahead of the younger generation. The dark blue light wall on the edge of the battling platform was called the stage ceiling light wall. Although it had nothing to do with Zhen Yuan, its defensive power was not weaker than the protective Zhen Yuan layer. In the past 1,000 years, no one had ever heard of anyone being able to break through the light wall directly. Even the light wall had barely been shaken. Naturally, no one believed that Xikong Sheng would be able to break through the light wall. However, judging from the previous situation, Xikong Sheng's fist power had obviously reached the limit of the light wall. He's too strong. Every move he makes has such power. How are we supposed to block him? I guess Xikong Sheng has not used all of his power yet. Otherwise, this light wall might not be able to handle it. The young generation was shocked as well. Only the disciples from the floating mountain martial school were full of pride. Once their head disciple became the #1 disciple of the hidden dragon rank again, they would be able to enjoy the benefits as well. Even a little bit of that endless luck would be able to save them years of hard work. Silent Sword. Pushing his sword step to its peak, Li Daoxian crossed hundreds of meters and appeared on the right side of Xikong Sheng, throwing out a sword attack without a sound. The sound coming from outside was cut off immediately, and the whole world became silent. Only a soul-stirring sword light was left, shooting towards Xikong Sheng like lightning. Silent killer move. It is worth it for me to use my right hand. His body shook slightly. Xikong Sheng did not make any movement, but he had already turned around, facing Li Daoxian. His right hand reached out from his back and clenched in the air. The calm air suddenly tightened up, as if it had left the whole world and become one with itself. Under this terrifying tightening force, the speed of the sword light rapidly slowed down. In the end, it became visible to the naked eye, and the sword chi was dense. Fist whirled. The clothes on his body fluttered without any wind as Xikong Sheng threw out a fist attack. Crack! When the sword light was less than 5 meters away from Xikongsheng, it shattered into thousands of pieces, splashing everywhere. Then it shot back like a hornet returning to its nest. Light dots fell like rain. Li Daoxian flashed again and again. Each time he stopped, it would not be longer than a second. However, there were just too many broken sword lights. His shoulders, legs, and arms had all been scratched by the light dots, causing blood to spill everywhere. Xikongsheng stood with his hands behind his back. You are quite powerful. Your silent ace attack has gotten a bit more powerful. Sealing the acupuncture point to stop the bleeding, Li Daoxian lifted up his head and said, Among the young generation, you are indeed the most powerful warrior I have ever seen. I heard that after this year's hidden dragon rank competitions, you will be going to other regions to train. Indeed, in the South Ridra region, I could not feel any pressure anymore. Only by leaving the South Ridra region and seeing the top martial geniuses from other regions would I be able to train even faster. Xikongsheng had planned for this a long time ago. Although his training speed was the #1 in the whole South Ridra region, and no one could compete with him, it would still be extremely hard for him to reach the life and death realm. It should be known that within the same generation, there would rarely be more than 3 people who could reach the life and death realm. So, it was not hard to imagine how hard it would be. In the next year or two, he would go to another region. The dragon fountain chi on his body was being devoured by Xikongsheng's dragon-shaped shadow. Li Daoxian put away his long sword and said, I have a feeling that this year's hidden dragon rank will not end so easily. I will end it without any suspense. Xikongsheng's tone was very calm, but it contained an unimaginable confidence. The 67th round, the 35th battle. Yan Qihua against Lin Yun. Skyfall attack. Fire dragon cut. The Zhen Qi that the two had trained was slightly different, but they were both fire element Zhen Qi. The fire element Zhen Qi was famous for its aggressive power. Each of its movements was extremely powerful, bringing up flames everywhere. Shooting star step, wave treading kill. His body was like a shooting star, fast as lightning. Lin Yun performed his ace attack, that was just as famous as the dark flame kill. The wave treading kill. A burning spear attack was shot out along with the endless fire waves. Flame cut. Earthcrack cut. Yan Qihua did not back out at all. He threw out a blade attack to block the tip of the spear. He then stabbed his long blade into the ground, slicing upwards, bringing up an even more horrifying fire light. Boom! Lin Yun's 11th Skyfall Great Art had been pushed to its limit, forming layers of fire yuan shields around his body. The fire yuan shields were thick and heavy, blocking out Yan Qihua's killing blade attack. You have underestimated me. Lose. Gold flame cut. After the earthcrack cut, it was an even more powerful ace attack. The blade was covered in flames, and its color had changed from red to gold red. It had burned the air around it into nothingness, turning it into a vacuum world. Without a sound, the bright gold blade light shot out horizontally. It had been accelerated to its limit in the vacuum state, brutally attacking on Lin Yun's fire yuan shield. It was as fast as lightning. Boom! A loud explosion was heard. Lin Yun could not stop his body. He was blown backward along with that burning fire wave. The fire yuan shield around his body had been completely shattered, leaving nothing behind. Damn it! Blood flame break. There were too many bleeding places on his body. Lin Yun waved his hand in the air, and a huge amount of blood gathered into a pile. Under the burning flame, it turned into a blood-colored spear tip that was as long as a forearm. It broke through the air and shot out at an extremely fast speed, leaving a bloody red light on its tail. Second kill gold flame cut. Yan Qihua did not dare to underestimate the power of the blood flame break. He backed out with a strange footwork. As he was backing out, the long blade in his hand suddenly performed its ace attack, clashing onto the tip of the blood-colored spear. A golden red flame mushroom cloud rose up in the air. The ceiling light wall around the stage expanded a couple of times, looking like a bloated stomach that was constantly shrinking. Shattering the hard platform with one foot, Yan Qihua stabilized his body. The long blade in his hand that was covered in flames pointed at the ground as he opened his mouth. Lin Yun, you are still far from it. Lin Yun was furious inside as he sneered. If it were a life-and-death battle, I might not lose to you. The extreme power of the blood flame break is not just this powerful. Huh. If you have lost, then you have lost. What are you talking about? In a life-and-death battle, you might not even have the chance to talk anymore. Along with Yan Qihua's aggressive aura, the dragon-shaped shadow jumped directly at Lin Yun, devouring his dragon fountain qi to replenish its own power. Yan Qihua is indeed not to be underestimated. He has broken Lin Yun's fire yuan shield from the front. This attacking power is extremely horrifying. Right now, there are only 3 people who still have an undefeated record. They are Si Gongsheng, Yan Qihua and Yi Chen. The 3 of them will have a battle for sure. I wonder what the result will be. As the battle was coming to an end, the audience knew that the most intense battle was about to begin. They could not control their excitement anymore. The next battle had ended, and the 67th round had come to an end. It was already the 68th round. This round did not have much of a challenge for Yi Chen. His opponent was Bing Ling. After dozens of exchanges, Bing Ling had to admit defeat again. The battle in front of him was between Morong Qingcheng and Yan Qihua. Morong Qingcheng's Sky Demon Sky art was extremely hard to deal with. Yan Qihua could not break through her defense all of a sudden. Plus, his movement art and skills were not as good as Yi Chen's, so he could not gain the upper hand from the beginning to the end. He could only use his powerful frontal battling power to exchange attacks with Morong Qingcheng. Gold Flame Cut. Flames were everywhere as Yan Qihua threw out 3 blade attacks towards Morong Qingcheng. 3 beams of gold-red blade light sliced through the air, chasing after her. Power Field Cut. Protective Sky Demon Kill. Morong Qingcheng performed her Power Field Cut with both of her hands, breaking 2 of the blade light instantly. When the last blade light got into the Protective Sky Demon Power Field, it had been shattered by the rotating power field around Morong Qingcheng. Yan Qihua obviously did not expect to beat Morong Qingcheng with 3 blade light attacks. His goal was to get closer. Once he got closer, he would throw out his second kill Gold Flame Cut immediately. Woo! The Sky Demon power field had been broken by half, but it was eventually blocked by Morong Qingcheng's ace attack, Condensed Power Field. However, that aggressive power that had been added to the blade light had blown her away immediately. Crack Ground Cut. With no time to lose, Yan Qihua stabbed his blade into the ground and threw out a slanted attack, beating his opponent with 1 attack. After the top 4 young warriors had made their moves, there were still 6 warriors left. Without too many surprises, Si Gongsheng had taken out Mo Yen without any effort. Li Daoxian had broken Gu Yuyan's Stone King Body Protective Fist art with his super powerful sword art cultivation. After that, Tuo Baku had fought with Lin Yun. Seriously speaking, the battle between the two was the real battle of equals. Tuo Baku's defense was super powerful, and Lin Yun's was not weak either. If the two wanted to break through each other's defense, it would be almost impossible. In the end, Lin Yun performed his blood fire break and burned through Tuo Baku's protective Jinqi layer. At the same time, Tuo Baku performed his dragon traveling world and blew Lin Yun away, landing heavily on the dark blue light wall. The battle was still not over yet. Crawling back up from the ground, the two continued to battle. This time it was no longer a battle of battling power, but of stamina. Whoever could last until the end would be the winner. After half an hour, Tuo Baku's stamina was still slightly better, and he had barely won against Lin Yun. Right then, he was already gasping for air, and his battling power had been greatly reduced. As the battle between the two had ended, there would no longer be any battles between top young warriors in the 68th round, which made people lose their interest. This situation did not last long. Once the 68th round had ended, the sky had already turned dark, and the battles for the day had come to an end. Chapter 281. On the second day, it started to drizzle from the dark sky, landing on the ground. The slightly dark environment made the hidden dragon ancient city look even more ancient. On the battling field, there were tons of people, their voices reaching the sky. This little bit of rain did not affect them at all since they had reached the clasping Yuan realm. The first 4 or 5 rounds were fine, but don't you think that starting from the 67th round, the judges have purposely left the three of them until the end? What do you think the judges are doing? Their eyesight is way more powerful than us. Naturally, they could see it clearly. Otherwise, if the three of them were to fight right at the beginning, then the hidden dragon rank competitions would not be perfect. Yeah, that's true. It has been like this for the past few competitions as well. The top battles are always left to the last round. The warriors who were watching the battles had some doubts about the order of the competitions, but they were soon dispelled. As long as it did not violate the rules of the competitions, the judges still had a lot of power. They had the right to arrange their opponents. Even the leaders of the rank 6 martial institutions might not be able to decide, since their disciples were powerful enough. But at the same time, if they were not powerful enough, the arrangement would be useless. It all depended on the power. The 69th round of the competitions had officially begun. The first pair of top young warriors was Li Daoxian and Tua Baku. Compared to Yin Qihua, Li Daoxuan's movement art was slightly better. Besides Xikong Sheng, who had never used his movement art before, he was only second to Yi Chen. Therefore, Tua Baku's uppercut fist could not hit Li Daoxian as he had hoped. Instead, Li Daoxian had taken the opportunity to attack him a couple of times. Eventually, Tua Baku had lost to his silent ace attack. The second pair was Lin Yun and Mo Yen. Although Mo Yen had lost the competition this time, he had finally gained some fame. Judging on power, Lin Yun was not as powerful as Yin Qihua. Judging on battling skills, he was not as powerful as Li Daoxian, not to mention Yi Chen. Therefore, he had managed to gain the upper hand with his sky demon eyes. That thick and heavy fire yuan shield had a lot of weaknesses in his eyes. Unfortunately, Lin Yun's power was not to be underestimated. He was a powerful warrior at the same level as Tua Baku. If it were not for the fact that he had suffered too much damage before, and his condition had dropped a bit, Mo Yen might not even be able to get the upper hand. After being enraged, Lin Yun threw out a crazy attack. That iron spear that was covered in flames was like a dragon playing in the water, bringing up the wind and waves. The flame was so strong that it had suppressed Mo Yen until the end of the battle. After that, Xikong Sheng and Morong Qingqing started to fight. Among the young generation, the two of them were the most popular. Xikong Sheng, the king warrior of the young generation, and the champion of the last hidden dragon rank. It was reasonable for him to be this popular. Although Morong Qingqing's power was not as powerful as Xikong Sheng, sometimes women did not need to rely on their power to win the popularity. Their looks and temperament were also part of their power, since most of the warriors watching the battle were male. You're very strong. Are you interested in going to the other domains with me? Morong Qingqing was about the same age as Xikong Sheng. They were both in their 20s. But in Xikong Sheng's eyes, Morong Qingqing was only a woman. It was that simple. Morong Qingqing shook her head slightly. Sorry. I will go out to train myself. But it is just a personal plan. I do not want to get involved with anyone. What a shame. Xikong Sheng did not care too much about it. As a beautiful woman with both power and temperament like Morong Qingqing, no one would not appreciate her beauty. He was no exception. However, for him, besides training, everything else was secondary. He only felt a bit regretful. Let's start. Xikong Sheng looked serious as he signaled to Morong Qingqing. Sky Demon Catch. Without performing any attacking movement, Morong Qingqing accumulated a huge amount of Sky Demon power, fielded with both of her hands, attacking where Xikong Sheng was from a distance. Crack. The ground 3 steps behind Xikong Sheng cracked open. Blink body movement. Morong Qingqing's pupils shrank. She threw out her attack first, and Xikong Sheng moved his body behind her. Because of his extreme speed, normal people would not be able to see his movement at all. It was as if the Sky Demon Catch had gone through his body and landed behind him. It was the first time that Xikong Sheng had performed his movement art. It was obviously more powerful than Li Daoxuan's, and even Yi Chen's was not as powerful as it. Off the stage, Yi Chen squeezed his eyes. The movement art that Xikong Sheng had performed was indeed a top-rank Earth Realm movement art, which was rarely seen even in rank 6 martial institutions. After all, it would be quite good for a normal rank 6 martial institution to have 4 or 5 top-rank Earth Realm martial arts. How could it be possible for them to have all kinds of top-rank Earth Realm martial arts? For example, Li Daoxuan's sword step shift was only top-rank Earth Realm. But of course, it was definitely one of the top-rank Earth Realm flying arts. The good thing is that my separating shadow flying art is also top-rank Earth Realm. Otherwise, I would be in big trouble. Back when he was on the Snake Island in the Star Region Lake, Yi Chen had already trained his Flow Ruo 3 mysterious spell to the 3rd level, which had increased his separating shadow flying arts rank to top-rank Earth Realm. However, since the beginning of the competition, he had not only restricted his sword intent, but also his flying art, which was also one of his ace attacks. Force Field Cut. Morong Qingqing accumulated 2 Sky Demon power fields with both of her hands, one positive and the other negative. The fields pressed and combined together, forming a huge cutting power, attacking towards Xigongsheng. Xigongsheng's body did not move at all, but he threw out his ace attack from his mysterious Sky Tyrant Fist art, confronting Morong Qingqing's ace attack head-on. Boom! The force field cut was shattered. Fist Tyrant River. After shattering the force field cut with one punch, Xigongsheng threw out another punch, which had shattered Morong Qingqing's protective Sky Demon power field. It was something that had never happened since the beginning of the competition. Naturally, Morong Qingqing had lost the battle. After devouring Morong Qingqing's Dragon Fountain Qi, Xigongsheng's dragon-shaped shadow had grown to 80 meters, only 2 feet away from 90 meters. I am afraid that no one would be able to beat Xigongsheng anymore. No, he would not even be able to fight with all of his power. Even Morong Qingqing's Sky Demon Great Art had been shattered by him with only one punch. In the last Sky Demon rank, Yan Qihua was still able to fight against Xigongsheng. But this time, Xigongsheng is way too powerful. He is so powerful that most of the young warriors do not even have the right to challenge him. Yeah, Yi Chen's power is at the same level as Yan Qihua. Neither of them would be able to face Xigongsheng. While everyone was talking, the competition continued until Yi Chen beat Gu Yuyan, and Yan Qihua beat Bing Ling. The 69th round of competitions had come to an end. 2 hours had passed, and the 70th round had arrived. The next round would be the last one. This round of competitions had not started yet, but the audience seating had already been heated up. There was nothing else, because in this round of competitions, Yi Chen would either be fighting against Yan Qihua or Xigongsheng. He would have to face one of them eventually, and no matter how the judges arranged the order, it would not change that fact. In the crowd's anticipation, Mo Yin had beaten Bing Ling, and Lin Yin had beaten Gu Yuyan. Now it was Tuo Baku and Morong Qingqing's turn. Morong Qingqing's power might not be as powerful as Lin Yun's, and even if it was, it would not be that powerful. However, Tuo Baku still could not get the upper hand. Under Morong Qingqing's Sky Demon catch, Tuo Baku could not even maintain his own battling rhythm. On the other hand, Morong Qingqing's power field cut could be ranked in the top 3 among the young generation, seeming to be right behind Xigongsheng. It was even more powerful than Yan Qihua and Li Daoxuan's ace attacks. Tuo Baku's defense would naturally not be able to handle it. But even so, he had only been slightly wounded. After Tuo Baku had lost, all of the spectators were getting more and more excited, waiting for the next battle. The 23rd battle, Yi Chen against Yan Qihua. The head judge stood up and announced the battle himself. Boom! The sound wave was so loud that even the rain in the sky had been shaken off. A wave of slight pattern appeared in the air, covering the whole battling field. In this year's Hidden Dragon rank competitions, the 4th to 10th place was basically clear, and there would not be too many changes. Only the top 3 were still in the dark. To be exact, the 2nd and 3rd place were still not clear, and the 1st place had been reserved for Xigongsheng. Without a doubt, the 2nd and 3rd place would be Yan Qihua and Yi Chen. Xigongsheng would not even be considered, since only the 2 of them had won all of their battles without losing a single battle. Yan Qihua paid a lot of attention to this battle. He had already taken out his long blade when he was still off the stage, wearing it on his waist. His whole body was filled with blade intent as he flashed onto the battling platform. A blue light flashed, and Yi Chen followed right after him. Facing Yan Qihua's sky-high blade intent and blade aura, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. With his blue robes and the long sword on his waist, he looked very calm, with a sense of calmness. Before the battle, I had never thought that you would be the one to make it this far. The blade intent on Yan Qihua's body was getting stronger and stronger. There was only a thin line between him and the 70% blade intent, and it seemed like it could break through at any second. However, this thin line was not that easy to break. Without a certain level of mastery of the blade art, it would be impossible to break through it even after 3 to 5 years. And this was because there were powerful warriors from the Fire Spirit Palace who had mastered the completed blade intent, who had given him a lot of guidance. Yi Chen looked very calm. Yan Qihua's blade intent had undoubtedly reached the peak of 60%, which was even more mature than the 60% blade intent. Let's fight. The sword intent was like an unsheathed weapon, shooting out of Yi Chen's body. It was the same 60% sword intent, but Yi Chen's sword intent was even purer than Li Daoxuan's. Fire Dragon Cut. The blade qi turned into a dragon, as Yan Qihua pushed his Zhen Qi, and threw out a horrifying blade attack towards Yi Chen. A deep star-like sword light flashed in the air. No one knew when, but Yi Chen's star scar sword had already been taken out of its scabbard. Along with the 60% sword intent, and the poetic perspective of the sky-shattering clouds, it accurately pointed at the head of the fire dragon blade qi. Sparks flew everywhere, looking like a rain of fire. Flashing his body, Yi Chen broke through the rain of fire, and appeared in front of Yan Qihua, stabbing out his sword. That sword attack was sharp, but it also carried the elegance of a sightseeing. There was no need for any smoke or fire, and it was thrown out naturally, as if he was drawing a landscape painting with his sword. All of his experiences had been condensed into one sword attack. All of the previous battles had not been wasted. Plus, this sword attack did not combine all of the complicated experiences into one. There was not enough time. Yi Chen believed that he was not the only one who had comprehended it, but they would need more time to absorb the essence of it. What? Since the start of the Hidden Dragon rank competitions, it was the first time that Yan Qihua had fallen into a disadvantage. Yi Chen's sword attack made him feel like he could not block it. The poetic perspective of his sword art was too well coordinated. So well coordinated, that Yan Qihua did not even know how to fight back. Right then, he finally realized how powerful Yi Chen was. His sword art training was so powerful that Li Daoxian could not even compare to him. Chapter 282. Explode. At that critical moment, Yan Qihua bit on the tip of his tongue. The Zhen Qi inside his body exploded like a volcano, bringing up a sky-piercing blade intent. It seemed like he was going to block out Yi Chen's fatal sword attack with his exploding Zhen Qi power. Swoosh. The star scar sword slowed down a bit, but it still stabbed in. The sword light was pointing right at Yan Qihua's chest. Open. Having gained a little bit of time, Yan Qihua did not have time to think. He threw out his burning red iron fist, landing on that sword light. A metal clashing sound was heard. The star scar sword in Yi Chen's hand had been bent by the fist power and bounced off. His whole body had been blown away, and Yan Qihua was even worse off. His left fist was covered in blood, and there was a bone-deep sword mark on it. If it were not for his high cultivation, and the top-rank Earth Realm martial art from the Fire Spirit Martial School, that sword attack would have broken his left arm. Watching what had happened on the battling platform, everyone was shocked. What is going on? This is too crazy. One sword attack had wounded Yan Qihua? Could it be that Yi Chen had not used all of his power before, and was just playing around? In everyone's mind, Yi Chen's flying art and skills were slightly better than Yan Qihua's, but their overall power was almost the same. In some ways, Yi Chen was still not as good as Yi Chen. However, right from the beginning, Yi Chen had overturned everyone's judgment and wounded Yan Qihua with an unbelievable sword attack. Yan Qihua's eyes were burning with fire. You have successfully pissed me off. Now, you will have to face my anger. With a loud yell, Yan Qihua pushed his Zhen Qi to the 7th rotation. That long blade in his hand that was covered in flames suddenly turned into a roaring fire dragon. It attacked towards Yi Chen with a momentum that could crack open mountains and break the sky. Right then, Yan Qihua had used all of his battling power, which was at least 30% more powerful than when he was facing Li Daoxian and Lin Yun. His spirit, qi and soul had all exploded. Seeing that, Yi Chen's expression did not change at all. His body kept flashing and drifting, easily dodging that burning attack. Then he shook his star scar sword. That bright sword light spread out like rain, covering Yan Qihua, who was not far away. Yan Qihua sneered. You think you can hurt me again? What a joke. I, Yan Qihua, will never suffer a second loss in the hands of the same person. After saying that, a scarlet wave of fire spurted out from his back, propelling his body forward explosively as he slashed with his saber in the air. Instant kill golden flame slash. The golden red saber projection sliced through the air, turning this part of the world into a vacuum. Yi Chen looked very calm as his index and middle fingers rested on the tip of the sword handle. That sword attack landed right in the middle of the golden red saber light. The air started to ripple. After a light popping sound, the saber light suddenly shattered. It was split open in the middle like a piece of cloth that had been torn apart. Why does it seem like there is a shadow of the silent ace attack in there? Li Daoxian looked surprised. That sword attack of Yi Chen's seemed to have nothing to do with his silent ace attack. However, in his eyes, it clearly contained the mystery of hiding the sword light, which was extremely tough and penetrating. He had guessed it right. Yi Chen had indeed added a bit of the silent ace attack into it, but it was not as powerful as Li Daoxuan's. But combined with the sky-shattering cloud's sword movement and poetic perspective, this sword attack was not only tough, but also had the effect of tearing everything apart. It was the evolved version of the sky-shattering clouds. Yan Qihua was dazed for a second. He had never fought with Yi Chen before, so he did not know how powerful he was. But after fighting with him for a while, he felt that his opponent's mature battle experience was definitely not something that ordinary people could compare with. Every time, he would always be able to cause the most damage with the least cost. With Yi Chen as his biggest enemy, Yan Qihua looked extremely serious as he crazily activated his 9-turn Fire Spirit Art. 7 turns of Fire Spirit Art Red Flame Battle Body. Every time his 9-turn Fire Spirit Art increased by 1 turn, his power would increase tremendously. At the 7th turn, he could already beat Li Daoxian in its normal state. Now that he had evolved the 7th turn to the high rank, the Red Flame Battle Body, all of his Zhen Qi seemed to be burning up. His aura only increased and very soon, he had broken through his original level. Crack! The platform under his feet could not handle that aggressive and burning power anymore. Countless twisted cracks appeared on it as the fire qi rose up. In less than half a blink of an eye, Yan Qihua's aura and battling power had increased to the next level. He roared as his whole body jumped up from the ground. That bright red long blade sliced through the air, dragging out a light black light mark in the air. The light mark was not affected by the gravity, which had increased the speed of the blade light drastically. Aurora Fire Lightning, Fire Cloud Earth Crack Cut. Off the stage, all of the young warriors who had seen Yan Qihua's powerful attack had lost their composure. They had not expected that Yan Qihua would be this horrifying when he had used his real power. He was like a fire demon. Lin Yun, who had also trained fire element Jin Qi, was no different from a kid in front of him. Focusing his eyes slightly, Yi Chen's body became blurry, turning into layers of shadows that spread out in all directions. It was like a startled moth flying in the sky. Yan Qihua, who was standing in front of him, laughed wildly. Do not waste your time. Once the Fire Cloud Earth Crack Cut is performed, the ghosts and the gods will be destroyed. Just as he finished talking, the blade light spread out, looking like a fire cloud in the sky, burning the sky red. Shoo! 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 Pieces of black shadows had been burned into smoke one after another, disappearing completely. The people in the audience seats could not help but scream. The battle between Yan Qihua and Yi Chen had been full of twists and turns. At first, Yi Chen had the upper hand, but now it was Yan Qihua who had the upper hand. And it seemed like Yan Qihua's advantage was much more obvious. All of the people from the Sky Cloud Martial School looked worried. Right now, it would be a lie if they did not hope for Yi Chen to win the first place. As long as he could beat Yan Qihua, Yi Chen would be able to fight against Xigongsheng. By then, no matter if he won or lost, it would be enough to shock the whole South Ridra region and bring endless luck to the Sky Cloud Martial School. However, Yan Qihua was just too powerful. Only Su Jing's expression did not change at all. Yi Chen's real power was way more powerful than everyone had imagined. This was her instinct about Yi Chen. The separating shadow flying art, which had been restricted to high-rank Earth realm, was broken. Yi Chen was a bit surprised, since his separating shadow flying art was different from normal flying arts. It had reached its current rank with the help of the Flow Ridra 3 mysterious spell, which allowed it to maintain the effect of the separating shadow flying art, and its speed was no weaker than other flying arts of the same rank. Of course, it was not enough to make him change his expression. He backed out of the way, and his sky-shattering cloud, which had been activated with his 60% sword intent, was ready to attack. He threw out a sword attack onto that aggressive fire cloud. Swoosh! The fire cloud was blown back. Yan Qihua's fire cloud earth-shattering cut contained the poetic perspective of clouds and fire, while Yi Chen's sky-shattering cloud contained the poetic perspective of clouds and thunder. The two overlapped with each other. Playing with the poetic perspective of clouds in front of Yi Chen was no doubt asking for trouble. What? Yan Qihua backed out quickly, avoiding the attack of the fire cloud. The leader of the Fire Spirit Palace's expression changed drastically as he stared at Yi Chen. He was very clear about Yan Qihua's fire cloud earth-shattering cut, which had reached a very high level of the poetic perspective of clouds. Added with the help of the poetic perspective of fire, it was way more powerful than just two poetic perspectives. However, under Yi Chen's sword attack, the poetic perspective of clouds had been used by him, and had been pushed back. How could he not be shocked? Mortal realm martial arts focus on the aura, and there are very few poetic perspectives. As for Earth realm martial arts, without a poetic perspective, one would not be able to reach its peak. How could this guy's poetic perspective of clouds be more powerful than the red fire? How did he train it? There were countless powerful warriors in the Fire Spirit Palace, and a lot of them had completed the poetic perspectives of Earth realm martial arts. After witnessing and hearing about Yan Qihua's talent, he knew that among the young generation, he was only second to Xigongsheng. The leader of the Fire Spirit Palace did not believe that anyone could surpass his head disciple, Yan Qihua, in terms of poetic perspectives. Yan Qihua did not believe it, so he yelled, "Just now my attacks were too scattered. Let's see how you can break this attack." Fire Cloud Golden Flame Cut. It also contained the poetic perspective of clouds and fire, so the power of the Fire Cloud Golden Flame Cut was extra concentrated. It was thrown out with 60% of the peak blade intent, attacking toward Yi Chen. Stubborn. His body was as straight as a sword as Yi Chen held his Star Scar sword with both of his hands. The air around the sword body twisted and collapsed rapidly, looking like an ocean of clouds rolling. Then lightning flashed, jumping around. Pap! A 1-meter thick lightning light shot out, which was actually formed from sword chi. The sky-shattering clouds used the poetic perspective of clouds as the main one, and the poetic perspective of thunder as the support. However, the way it was presented was the poetic perspective of thunder, and the poetic perspective of clouds as the support. Therefore, at first glance, one would think that it was just the poetic perspective of thunder, but it was actually the poetic perspective of clouds combined with the poetic perspective of thunder. It could be called the poetic perspective of thunder and clouds. The lightning light attacked crazily, landing right in the middle of the golden red blade light. Countless arm-thick electric lights exploded, looking like snakes and spears, very eye-catching. Boom! The blade light was shattered. Yan Qihua had blood dripping out of the corner of his mouth as he backed out a couple of steps. He could not believe that his ace attack was completely useless in front of Yi Chen. It had been completely suppressed, which was something that he could not accept. After shattering Yan Qihua's ace attack with one sword attack, Yi Chen shook his head secretly. If it were someone else, perhaps he would have been beaten by Yan Qihua. Unfortunately, his opponent's poetic perspective of clouds was not as powerful as his, which was why he was naturally suppressed. Therefore, The power of his poetic perspective of fire had been greatly reduced. The world of martial artists was always complicated. Power was only the foundation, and the most important thing was how to turn one's disadvantage into one's advantage, not being suppressed. According to Yi Chen's knowledge, clasping Yuan realm warriors had only touched the surface of the poetic perspective. Once they reached the astral reaching realm, the poetic perspective would be the king. Without a high poetic perspective, one's power would be greatly reduced, unless one's foundation was extremely powerful and could ignore other people's poetic perspectives. Just like the minor blood demon separating great art, which was a special earth realm martial art. It did not care about poetic perspectives, but only focused on increasing the warrior's power, which was the foundation. Therefore, for high-level warriors, the basic power was important, but the comprehensive ability was equally important. The former could increase one's natural advantage, while the latter could make up for one's weakness and win against the strong. With both, one would be a powerful warrior. I have not lost yet. Flame cut. After comprehending the peak level 60% blade intent, Yan Qihua's mentality was extra solid, and he would not be affected easily. Right then, he knew that the poetic perspective of clouds would not work on Yi Chen, so he used the pure poetic perspective of fire and threw it out together with his ace attack. The fire wave was extremely powerful, spreading out everywhere. Poetic perspectives alone are the hardest to understand. Your poetic perspective of fire is not even at the tip of the iceberg. Thunder light exploded as Yi Chen threw out a sword attack, cutting open the fire wave. His body flashed as he performed his separating shadow flying art. Layers of shadows spread out, spreading out in all directions. Ting! Without seeing the sword light, Yan Qihua's red long blade flew out of his hand. Chapter 283. His sword movement poetic perspective has obviously reached a very high level, almost the same as normal astral reaching realm warriors. It would be fine if Yi Chen did not expose his poetic perspective completely, but once he did, powerful astral reaching realm warriors would definitely be able to tell. Even clasping Yuan realm warriors would be able to sense the power of Yi Chen's poetic perspective. After blowing away Yan Qihua's long blade with one sword attack, Yi Chen jumped back to where he was standing. Talking about the poetic perspective, Yi Chen had found a different way. The others would use Earth Realm martial arts to slowly understand the poetic perspective, but he had learned it by combining sword movements. Both of them had their own advantages. Using a complete Earth Realm martial art to understand the poetic perspective would be easier and easier to master. However, combining sword movements was not only extremely difficult, but also easy to get stuck. But the advantage of combining sword movements was that during the process of combining, one would be able to understand the poetic perspective more thoroughly and control it more deeply. Therefore, although Yan Qihua had trained a very powerful martial art, he had lost to Yi Chen in terms of poetic perspective. After beating Yan Qihua, the dragon-shaped shadow on Yi Chen's body spun once before jumping onto his body, trying its best to devour the dragon fountain chi. 26 meters, 27 meters, 28 meters. Yan Qihua's dragon fountain chi was too rich, and Yi Chen's dragon-shaped shadow had grown to 28 meters, just like Xikong Sheng. Of course, Xikong Sheng and Yan Qihua still had to battle, and by then, it should be more than 28 meters, reaching the level of 29 meters. You are very powerful, but unfortunately, you will lose to him eventually. Yan Qihua glanced at Xikong Sheng, who was still in the audience, and reached out his hand to suck back his long blade. Yi Chen said, "You do not need to worry about that. I still have another battle with him. You will see the gap between us." Actually, Yan Qihua had already suspected that Xikong Sheng had reached that level. It was not until the battle between him and Morong Qingcheng, where he had almost shattered the ceiling light wall with one punch, that Yan Qihua finally realized the truth. Because of the arrangement of Xikong Sheng, Yan Qihua, and Yi Chen to the last two battles were a bit weird. Yan Qihua not only had to fight against Yi Chen, but also against Xikong Sheng, because he had lost to Yi Chen. However, the referees were prepared for this situation. They allowed the uninjured Yin Qihua to rest for half an hour before he went on stage. On the stage, Yin Qihua, who had lost to Yi Chen, held a long saber in his hand. His whole body was surrounded by flames, and his momentum was strong. It was obvious that he had upgraded the 9 Revolutions Fire Spirit technique to the 7th Revolution, the Crimson Flame Battle Body. I know you have reached that level, but I will still fight with all my power. Swinging his long blade, a deep burning mark appeared on the ground as Yin Qihua said to Xikongsheng. Xikongsheng's eyebrows flickered slightly. There should be a lot of people who know about it. But I did not expect you to be able to see it when you are only at the Clasping Yuan realm. Yin Qihua said, I am not that far away from that level. Otherwise, I would have made a mistake as well. Oh yeah, make your move then. Fire Cloud Crack Earth Cut. Facing Xikongsheng, Yin Qihua did not dare to hold back at all. One of his top 2 ace attacks, the Fire Cloud Crack Earth Cut, was thrown out aggressively, attacking towards his opponent like a flood. Fist Tyrant River. Xikongsheng took out his right hand from his back. His fist was covered in a thick chi as he threw out a punch. Boom! The fist power was like a dragon crossing the ocean, unstoppable. It split open the Fire Cloud Blade Light within a second, attacking towards Yin Qihua. Among all of Yin Qihua's ace attacks, the Blink Kill Golden Flame Cut was the fastest. He threw out a blade attack, and a gold light flashed in the air, clashing with the fist power. Fist Conquering Mountains. Xikongsheng lifted his feet as if they were light as a feather, walking over and throwing out another punch. Boom! The area around Yin Qihua had been restricted like a cage. Even the fire element Zhen Qi on his body seemed to be shrinking into his body. He roared, his red flame battle body exploding. The flame was so condensed that it looked like it was real, burning fiercely. It had burned through the air and part of the restriction. His second ace attack, the Fire Cloud Golden Flame Cut, was ready for the incoming attack. Xikongsheng's battling power had increased steadily. He threw out a punch, and that powerful fist power had not only shattered Yin Qihua's blade light, it had also blown him away. That shocking power had made most of the people open their eyes wide. Yin Qihua was ranked 2nd in the last Hidden Dragon rank, and he was ranked 3rd this time. However, he could not even handle 2 punches from Xikongsheng. What kind of level had Xikongsheng reached? All of the Astral Reaching Realm warriors knew what was going on, but they were still shocked. So powerful. They are both from the young generation, but how could Xikongsheng be this powerful? Yi Chen could not possibly be his opponent. People from the Sky Cloud Martial School looked at each other. The headmaster of the Sky Cloud Martial School forced a smile and said, Yi Chen being able to reach the 2nd place is already beyond our imagination. There is no need to hope for the 1st place. Luo Xinglia nodded. I suspect that Xikongsheng has entered the Zhen Yuan purification stage. Everyone was shocked, and did not say anything for a long time. His feet landed on the ground unsteadily. Yin Qihua looked like he had expected it. This should be very close to your real power. Xikongsheng said lightly. Too bad that you did not have the chance to experience it. Yes, none of us had the chance to experience it. But once I make it to this step, it will not be so clear who will win or lose. Putting his long blade back into its scabbard, Yin Qihua walked off the stage. After losing to Yi Chen and Xikongsheng in a row, his rank had already been confirmed, the 3rd place of the Hidden Dragon rank. When he walked off the stage, Yin Qihua glanced at Yi Chen, as if he was saying, you saw it. Without reaching that level, you will not be his opponent. Yi Chen looked the same, as if he had not heard it at all. It seems like you still have some tricks up your sleeves. However, no matter how many tricks you have up your sleeves, it would still be useless. Seeing Yi Chen's expression, Yin Qihua probably knew that Yi Chen still had some ace up his sleeves. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful his ace was, it would be useless if he did not have the same power. The battle between 2 geniuses would not be that easy to win against someone stronger than you. In the 70th round, there were 9 top young warriors who had fought before. Only Li Daoxian had not fought yet. After the battle between Yin Qihua and Xikongsheng had finished, Lin Yin and Li Daoxian, who had already fought against each other, had started to fight. It was Lin Yun's last battle, and it was Li Daoxuan's 8th battle. The reason for the chaos in the competition was because of the problem of arranging Si Gongsheng, Yan Qihua, and Yi Chen to fight in the last 2 battles. After exchanging hundreds of attacks, Li Daoxian had barely won against Lin Yun. After resting for an hour, the 70th round had begun. In the 70th round, there were 6 battles in total. Therefore, there were only 4 battles left in the 70th round. They were Yi Chen against Si Gongsheng, Li Daoxian against Bing Ling, Morong Qingqing against Gu Yuyan, and Tuobaku against Mo Yan. As for Yan Qihua and Lin Yun, they had both gone through 9 battles and fought against 9 top young warriors. So, they would not be involved in this round of battles. First, it was Morong Qingqing who had beaten Gu Yuyan, and then Tuobaku, who had beaten Mo Yan again. They had fought against each other before in the elimination battles, and then Li Daoxian had also beaten Bing Ling. In the end, there was only 1 battle between top young warriors left, which would be Yi Chen against Si Gongsheng. Yi Chen was the biggest dark horse in this year's Hidden Dragon rank competitions. He had been through all the battles, and had won every single one of them. Up until now, he had not lost a single battle, and had maintained his winning record. The most eye-catching thing was that his power had been increasing along with his opponent's power. He had hidden his ace cards quite well. In the last round, he had even surprised everyone by beating the Fire Spirit Prince Yan Qihua. Si Gongsheng was ranked 2nd and 1st in the last Hidden Dragon rank, the king warrior of the young generation in the South Ridra region. Even someone as powerful as Yan Qihua could not last 2 attacks against him. A lot of people suspected that Si Gongsheng's real power was way more than that. As for what his real ace card was, no one knew. This battle was not only the last battle between top young warriors, it was also the last battle of the 70th round. Countless people had their eyes on the two, holding their breaths. Shoo! Yi Chen got onto the stage first, with his long sword hanging on his waist. Si Gongsheng sneered as he took 1 step forward, appearing in front of Yi Chen within a second. His horrifying flying art had caused a lot of people to gasp. Your power is not bad. Even Yan Qihua had lost to you. But the 2nd place will always be the 2nd place. It will not change. Si Gongsheng stood there with his hands behind his back. That kind of aura spreading out through the ceiling light wall. This aura is so powerful. Has Si Gongsheng decided to use his real power? Everyone was shocked. Under the attack of his opponent's aura, Yi Chen's blue robe danced in the air, his long black hair flying in the air. His pitch-black star-like eyes were calm like water, without arrogance or impatience, pure and natural. He was like a top sword artist standing on top of a cliff, neither happy nor sad. He said lightly, "Until the last second, no one can be sure of the real result. Do you still think so now?" Si Gongsheng did not try to explain, as he took out both of his hands from his back. His body shook once, and that horrifying Jin Qi shot out into the sky, covering the whole area. Visible with naked eyes, there were bits of broken light floating out of Si Gongsheng's body. They looked like precious stones, but also like diamonds, crystal clear and extremely condensed. This is Zhen Yuan. No, it is half-step Zhen Yuan. Si Gongsheng had actually started to train his Zhen Yuan. No wonder he was so powerful. Once he used his half-step Zhen Yuan, no one under the astral-reaching realm would be able to fight against him. I understand now. In the battles before, Si Gongsheng had diluted his half-step Zhen Yuan into Zhen Qi, which made it hard for people to see through his real power. Indeed, Zhen Yuan could not be diluted into Zhen Qi, but half-step Zhen Yuan could. Si Gongsheng had hidden his power too well. Yi Chen would definitely not be his opponent. No, even Tin Yi Chen would not be his opponent. A king warrior of the young generation with half-step Zhen Yuan would be able to compete with real early astral reaching realm warriors. He might even be able to kill them. Once Si Gongsheng used his half-step Zhen Yuan, no one thought that Yi Chen would have any chance of winning, including people from the Sky Cloud Martial School and the leader of the South Ridra Martial School. Everyone from the Purple Sun Martial School even had a gloating expression on their faces. Yi Chen beating Yan Qihua had already pissed them off. And if he were to get the first place, then it would be even worse. Luckily there was Si Gongsheng, so it would be impossible for Yi Chun to get the first place. Do you think you can win against me now? Inside his body, the half-step Jin Yuan was extremely powerful. Sikong Sheng's aura kept on increasing, as if it would never stop. It attacked on Yi Chun's body wave after wave. Yi Chun lifted his eyelids, a shocking sharp light shooting out from his pupils as he said word by word. I have said it before. Until the last one, no one can be sure of the real result. As the last word was spoken, the air around Yi Chun started to vibrate. The air seemed to have been pierced through, as if a legendary weapon was about to come out of its scabbard and kill the whole world. The next second, an extremely horrifying sword intent shot out of his body, piercing through the air. Even the ceiling light wall seemed to be shaking. It was an existence that had surpassed the 60% sword intent. The 70% sword intent, which contained the immortal mentality, exploded. Chapter 284. All of a sudden, the whole battling field became so quiet that even the sound of a needle dropping on the ground could be heard. After 2 or 3 blinks of an eye, the crowd started to chatter again. This is the 70% sword intent. Am I seeing it right? Although there is only a 10% difference between 70 and 60%, 70% sword intent has already reached the upper realm of the sword intent, while 60% is only the lower realm. The two are completely different, just like the difference between a high-level warrior and a low-level warrior. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Yi Chun's ace card is the 70% sword intent. Even among the astral reaching realm warriors, very few of them have reached this level. Everyone was shocked, unable to believe what they had just heard. In the front row of the audience seating, Song Yan, the astral reaching realm warrior, who had competed with Yi Chun for the sword-shaped plant in the gold tripod city auction, was slightly shocked. He remembered that at that time, Yi Chun's sword intent was only at 50%. Could it be that the 2 sword-shaped plants had directly increased his sword intent by 20%? It did not seem possible. The sword-shaped plant contained a bit of the Battle King's sword intent, but if one wanted to increase the sword intent with the plant, the chance would be extremely small. It would already be extremely lucky if 1 out of 10 people managed to do it, not to mention increasing it by 20% all of a sudden. Plus, there was a huge gap between the 60% and 70% sword intent. The 60% sword intent was still at the lower realm of the sword intent, while the 70% sword intent was the upper realm. Once one managed to reach the upper realm, it would mean that one had made a great achievement in the sword intent, which would be very meaningful. Before, Song Yan had bought a sword-shaped plant from Yi Chun, but it had only helped him a little bit. His sword intent did not increase at all, and was still at 90%. No matter what, in order to increase the sword intent, one would need to have an extremely powerful understanding of the sword art. Otherwise, even a life and death realm warrior would not be able to be one's teacher. A rare genius of the sword art. Song Yan took a deep breath, his eyes shining brightly. The second Yi Chun released his 70% sword intent, Li Daoxian had finally understood why he had that kind of instinct. It turned out that the biggest reason was Yi Chun, who was powerful enough to compete with Sikong Sheng. This was his real ace card. Before, he had not been serious at all. The realm of sword intent is indeed terrifyingly strong. Li Daoxian made a comparison, and found that the 60% sword intent didn't even look like it was going to raise its head in front of the 70% sword intent. As for Yan Qihua, he had almost bitten his own tongue. He had never thought that Yi Chun's hidden ace would be the 70% sword intent. The sword intent was just like the blade intent. The higher the level, the more difficult it would be. But at the same time, the power would also be more and more terrifying. Moreover, the 70% sword intent was the upper level of the sword intent. If Yi Chun used his 70% sword intent during the battle, not only would Yan Qihua's peak 60% blade intent not be able to compete with it, but he would also be suppressed, and would only be able to use 80% of his power. Impossible! How can his sword intent be at such a high level? The leader of the Purple Sun Martial School, Tu Chongshan, tightened his fists. The more powerful Yi Chun was, the more of a threat he would be to the Purple Sun Martial School. Given time, once he reached the astral-reaching realm, even the Great Master might not be able to suppress him, which was not what Tu Chongshan wanted to see. The headmaster of the Purple Sun Martial School had a bad look on his face as he sneered. Xikongsheng is not a pushover. The half-step Jin Yuan had increased his power in all aspects, and he would be able to compete with early astral-reaching realm warriors. But Yi Chen cannot be allowed to live either. After the Hidden Dragon rank competitions, we will find a chance to kill him, no matter how high the price is. Indeed, this guy cannot be allowed to live. Otherwise, the Purple Sun Martial School would never have a chance to rise again. Kill! All of the people from the Purple Sun Martial School had a murderous look on their faces. On the judge's seat, the 13 judges gasped. I had thought that Xikongsheng would definitely win. But now, it seems like the first place of the Hidden Dragon rank is not a foregone conclusion. One of the judges sighed. The former Group 3 judge, who had been watching Yi Chen win all the battles, nodded. Not even 18 years old, 70% sword intent. This has definitely broken the record of the sword artists in the South Ridra region for decades. It would not be wrong to call him the rare sword art genius in the South Ridra region. It is not easy to make a conclusion yet. The head judge said, extracting Zhen Yuan depends on the rank of the martial arts, and the number of times is different. For mid-rank Earth Realm martial arts, it would take 8 times to convert the Zhen Qi into Zhen Yuan. For high-rank Earth Realm martial arts, it would take 4 times. And for top-rank Earth Realm martial arts, it would take 2 times. Xikongsheng had already done it once, and he was at the half-step Zhen Yuan level. Although it would not be like the Zhen Yuan, which could burn the Zhen Yuan to increase the power, the quality would be way better than normal Zhen Qi. The attacking power it would bring would not just be a little bit, but would be doubled. If Yi Chen wants to compete with Xikongsheng, it would still be a bit difficult for him to do it with only 70% sword intent. Extracting Zhen Yuan was a very difficult process, and it would take a long time. Even a martial genius would not be able to do it in a short amount of time. But once it was done once, the power would increase drastically, and he would be able to reach the next level. With 70% sword intent coming out of his body, Yi Chen felt a lot more relaxed. Before, he had limited his sword intent, which made it hard for him to fight freely. But Yi Chen believed that if there was a Yi Chen who had only learned 60% sword intent, he would definitely be able to beat him, who had limited his sword intent to 60%, because the former would be the most comfortable way for him to fight, while he would have to put on the shackles of his own accord, which would make it different. The pure horrifying sword intent spread out in the air, piercing through the air. Xikongsheng's storm-like aura had been shattered into nothingness by the sword intent once it got close. Right then, Yi Chen was like a godly weapon that had been unearthed from the ground, telling the world what it meant to be sharp and unstoppable. Pooh! Xikongsheng could vaguely hear his aura being shattered. His slightly raised eyelids finally dropped down, his eyes looking at Yi Chen at the same level. Very good. I thought it would be a one-sided battle. Right now, you are qualified for me to be serious. But of course that is all. His aura had stopped spreading out, and Xikongsheng took back his aura. His not-so-tall body was like a mountain, an unreachable peak. Under the influence of the sword intent, the star-scar sword vibrated slightly, seeming to want to get out of its scabbard and kill everything in front of it. Yi Chen did not look happy or angry as he said, "No need to talk anymore. Let's fight." Once the word fight came out, Yi Chen's sword intent became even sharper. Everyone seemed to see a peerless great sword floating above Yi Chen's head, which would be able to kill with just a thought. All of the young girls saw this scene, their hearts beating extremely fast, and their faces blushed. Let me remind you that only with the help of half-step Jin Yuan can my mysterious Sky Tyrant Fist art perform its peak power. With both of his hands hanging casually on his sides, Xikongsheng took a step forward. That ocean-like aura exploded again, looking down on the whole world. Xikongsheng is going to attack. This is his first real attack. The young generation under the stage could feel their hearts racing uncontrollably. Their mouths were all dry, and they could not even blink their eyes, afraid to miss the most crucial moment. His aura exploding to its limit, Xikong Sheng yelled, "Take my first fist attack." Fist conquering the world. Boom! The battling platform shook violently, cracks appearing out of nowhere. Then, the space where Yi Chun was suddenly tightened and collapsed, forming a natural prison, trapping Yi Chun inside. At the same time, that powerful fist power attacked out along with Xikong Sheng's aura. Crack! 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 After throwing out one fist attack, the battling platform, which had gone through countless battles and was only slightly damaged, created a tunnel. That aggressive chi flow made everyone's scalp numb. Chin. Yi Chun took out his Star Scar sword with his right hand. His 70% sword intent had found a target to attach to. That horrifying sharp light spread out in all directions, shocking everyone. Right then, the sword intent was the most powerful sword intent. If a sword artist did not take out his sword, the sword intent would not be able to perform its peak power. Sky-shattering clouds. A half-meter thick bolt of lightning shot out. Not only did it break free from the shackles of space, it also absorbed enough thunder and cloud elemental energy from the air. Under everyone's dumbfounded gaze, it heavily slammed into the fist energy. Boom! The air started to explode. That horrifying collision power formed a visible shining pattern and horrifying chi flow. The ceiling light wall could no longer handle the destructive power of the two attacks, and started to expand to its limit. Along with a popping sound, countless tiny cracks appeared. The chi flow and the remaining sword chi shot out through the cracks, looking like countless arm-thick light pillars. Looking over, the whole battling platform looked like a shining hedgehog. The ceiling light wall had been punctured. Everyone was shocked. Watch out! Around the battling platform was an abyss, and on the other side of the abyss was where the young warriors were standing. Seeing those beams of chi flow and sword chi shooting towards them, the young warriors screamed out loud. They all performed their ace attacks to protect themselves while backing out step by step. So horrifying. Just the aftermath of the chi flow is enough to make us use all of our power. The young warriors could feel the gap between them and the two on the stage, so they were getting more and more shocked. Morong Qingqing waved off the chi flow attack, staring at the two on the stage without blinking. More specifically, she was paying attention to Yi Chun, the one who had shocked everyone from the beginning to the end. Yi Chun and Xikong Sheng both backed out dozens of meters at the same time. That exchange just now was more or less a test, so it was not their most powerful attack. Half-step Jinyuan. It is indeed powerful. It was the first time that Yi Chun had felt such a huge pressure. If he did not use all of his power, he might very well lose. The young king warriors of the South Rudra region were always talking nonsense. 70% sword intent, the poetic perspective of cloud and thunder. Xikong Sheng looked surprised. As Yi Chen's 70% sword intent exploded, his martial poetic perspective had also reached an extremely high level, and he could not afford to underestimate it. Waving his sleeves, Xikong Sheng said lightly, "Being able to block out this fist attack means that you indeed have the power to compete with me. But that was just a test. For the next one, you will have to be extra careful." The mountain-conquering fist had the effect of binding space, so its attacking power would inevitably be a bit weaker. Xikong Sheng knew that instead of binding his opponent, it would be better to beat his opponent with absolute power. This sword attack was also my test. The sky-shattering clouds does not only have this kind of power. For this hidden dragon rank competition, Yi Chen had prepared a lot. He had more than 3 ace attacks, 2 of which he would not use unless absolutely necessary. Still just a test. No way. The first exchange between the two had already shocked everyone. Now hearing them say that it was just a test, everyone was speechless. Chapter 285. Indeed, these two have already surpassed our level. Before the competitions of the hidden dragon rank had started, Tuobaku had used his wild instinct to guess that Xikong Sheng and Yi Chun were the most powerful warriors. Right now his guess had come true. Xikong Sheng's biggest ace was his half-step Jin Yuan, while Yi Chen's was 70% sword intent. No one in the young generation could threaten them. On the battling platform, Yi Chen held his Star Scar sword, the Zhen Qi inside his body operating at an extreme speed. His sharp sword intent and sword aura continued to climb, preparing for the next powerful sword attack. Xikong Sheng, who was standing in front of him, was also accumulating his power. His fist aura was extremely rich, turning into waves of powerful poetic perspectives. The two had gotten rid of the feeling of testing each other and decided to use all of their power. Boom! It was almost within the same second that the two started to attack each other fiercely. Sky-shattering clouds. 5 movements combined. Yi Chen's pupils had almost been dyed into a bright blue color, which was the color of thunder and lightning. His body was running at an extreme speed while the Star Scar sword in his hand had turned into a lightning light attacking crazily. His speed was extremely fast, with a hint of lightness in it. Fist Tyrant River. Xikong Sheng looked very serious as he threw out an ace attack. That powerful fist aura had pierced through the air in front of him. Boom! The thunder sword light and the powerful fist power clashed together. The whole battling platform started to shake. The broken rocks on the platform floated up into the air, turning into a strange, still state. The next second, the air started to vibrate like boiling water. That aggressive qi power spread out in all directions, exploding suddenly. Yi Chen could not stop his body, and was blown hundreds of meters away by that qi power. Such a condensed fist power. Yi Chen controlled his qi and blood that were going against the flow. Although that sword attack was still his sky-shattering clouds, it was the combination of 5 movements of his sky-cloud sword art. It was more than twice as powerful as the combination of 4 movements. After all, he had spent so many days in the competitions, and it had given him a lot of inspiration. However, Xikong Sheng's fist power was even more aggressive. It had been completely combined into one. With only one fist power, it had shaken the whole world. The sword intent and the poetic perspective of thunder and clouds had both been shattered by it. His mysterious Sky Tyrant fist art is probably the most horrifying top-rank Earth Realm fist art. No matter the movements or mentality, they are all top-notch. I am slightly disadvantaged in terms of martial art rank. Although fusing sword moves could solve the problem temporarily, it was not a long-term solution after all. If he wanted to have more potential, he would have to find a top-rank Earth Realm sword art to cultivate. Of course, top-rank Earth Realm martial arts couldn't be lacking either. However, my mentality of thunder and clouds is not ordinary either. Combined with 70% sword intent, its explosive power is definitely top-notch. Yi Chen let out a breath, looking at Xikong Sheng in front of him. Under the explosion of his qi, Xikong Sheng had backed out less than 10 meters compared to Yi Chen. However, he was not feeling any better either. That thunder sword light was full of explosive power, and it had released its most powerful power in a very short period of time, which made the fist power of the mysterious Sky Tyrant fist unable to shatter it immediately. The reason why he was able to back out less than 10 meters was because Xikong Sheng's basic power was more powerful than Yi Chen's. No matter cultivation, zhenqi quality, or quantity, he was more powerful than Yi Chen. This was his biggest advantage, but also Yi Chen's biggest disadvantage. Good, very good. In these 3 years, you are the first young warrior that could make me back out. You should be proud. Lifting up his eyes, Xikong Sheng's gaze was like that of a god, full of confidence. But now, I will not hold back anymore. You need to be prepared to be badly wounded. Just bring it on. No need to talk too much. Yi Chen's sword intent was condensed without disappearing. It was getting sharper and sharper, shaking the air around him. In fact, up until now, he had never truly released his 70% sword intent, because his 70% sword intent was different from other people's 70% sword intent. From the Battle King's 2 sword intents, he had learned a little bit of immortal mentality. After a couple of months of accumulation, his sword intent could finally stay in the real world for 5 blinks of an eye. It was an extremely horrifying improvement, since even other people's completed sword intent did not have this kind of effect. Shoo! Moving his body within a second, Xikong Sheng wanted to get close to Yi Chen and attack him with a deadly attack. My movement art is not weaker than yours either. As the wind blew, Yi Chen's body disappeared like a pile of black smoke. Seeing that, Si Gongsheng frowned. In his sight, Yi Chen's figure could no longer be seen. Yi Chen's movement art was also at the top rank Earth realm, and it contained a very special effect. His whole body seemed to have turned into a shadow. Since this is the case, take my fist-shattering river. Stopping his body, Si Gongsheng locked onto Yi Chen again, throwing out a fist attack. Immortal sky-shattering clouds. The immortal mentality from his sword intent had been poured into his sword movement. Yi Chen held his star-scar sword with both of his hands, throwing out a dark blue thunder light towards Si Gongsheng. The thunder light was like a waterfall, shooting out violently. Crack, crack. A weird scene happened. Si Gongsheng's fist power was extremely condensed, but no matter how powerful it was, it could not shatter the thunder light formed by the sword chi. It seemed like that thunder light had the ability to repair itself, as it continued to absorb power from the surreal space. Within a blink of an eye, the fist power and the sword chi exploded at the same time, combining together and creating a horrifying chi tornado that spread out crazily. Boom! Yi Chen's back was stuck on the ceiling light wall. He tasted something sweet in his mouth, and blood dripped out from the corner of his mouth. His protective Zhen Qi was still a bit weak after all, and could not block out the vibration of the fist power completely. Added with the aftershock of the Qi tornado, he was slightly wounded. Shoo! Backing out for almost 100 meters, Si Gongsheng's confident expression froze. Within the Qi tornado, a beam of sword Qi shot out, brushing past his left arm and bringing up a stream of blood. Such a horrifying Qi tornado had not been able to shatter the sword Qi completely. There was still a bit of it left, attacking Si Gongsheng. Horrifying. What kind of sword Qi was that? The audience gasped one after another. Everyone in the younger generation was stunned. The intensity of the battle was beyond their imagination. The ceiling light curtain was like a leaking balloon. From time to time, one or two beams of Qi would shoot out, riddling the light curtain with thousands of holes. Si Gongsheng has been hit by the sword Qi. Yi Chen's 70% sword intent is way more powerful than the normal 70% sword intent. It would be impossible to destroy it within a short period of time. Otherwise, Si Gongsheng would not be wounded at all. In the beginning, although Yi Chen had exploded with that horrifying 70% sword intent, there were not many people who thought he would win, including the 13 judges. However, after a while of battling, Yi Chen had not only not fallen into a disadvantage, but had even managed to fight against Si Gongsheng. Right now, Yi Chen had crashed into the ceiling light wall and was slightly wounded, but Si Gongsheng had also been scratched by the sword Qi on his left arm, which was also slightly wounded. The record of being unwounded in the last hidden dragon rank had been broken. Is this still the young generation? Even the warriors who had just reached the astral reaching realm would not be this powerful. A battle between the top of the young generation. If the hidden dragon rank competitions want to surpass this battle, it would be extremely hard. It would be almost impossible in the next hundreds of years. Indeed, their battle was already like the battle between normal early astral reaching realm warriors. It would be extremely rare. Once they reached the astral reaching realm, it would be even more powerful. Everyone was shocked. The battle had progressed to this point, and it had already gone beyond their imagination. No one knew what would happen next. Yi Chen, Ji Shuiyan could feel that her heart was beating extremely fast. All she could see was Yi Chen, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. Su Jing and Morong Qingqing were all focused on Yi Chen as well. Damn! How is this possible? The leader of the Purple Sun Martial School, Tu Chongshan, gasped at first, then became extremely furious. He had never thought that Yi Chen would be able to fight against Si Gongsheng. He thought that once Si Gongsheng got serious, Yi Chen would lose. So scary. He is definitely a monster. Right now he already has the power to threaten early astral reaching realm warriors. All of the core masters of the Purple Sun Martial School looked at each other. There was a heavy worry and killing intent in their eyes. Tu Chongshan tried his best to control his emotions. He thought to himself word by word, "No matter what, you are going to die. I will let you live a little longer." What a strange sword Qi. It is so hard to destroy. Sheng sealed the bleeding meridian on his left arm as he looked at Yi Chen, who was hundreds of meters away. Even though he had the half-step Yuan protection, it was still pierced through by that almost indestructible sword qi. If it were not for his fast reflexes, that sword qi would have gone through his left arm for sure, instead of just brushing past his skin. It was a very dangerous situation indeed. The immortal mentality is indeed powerful. Within 5 blinks of an eye, the sword qi is almost impossible to destroy completely. There would always be some left to attack. Even Yi Chen himself was a bit surprised. Ever since he had learned the 70% sword intent, he had never fought with anyone with all of his power. He did not know exactly what the immortal mentality could do, but through this battle, he had learned how powerful the immortal mentality was. On the other hand, the Battle King's power had shocked him even more. That was a sword intent that had not disappeared for 500 years. How much immortal mentality was contained in it? From now on, you will not have another chance. Sheng's eyes were cold. His body kept flashing, as if he had teleported for a short distance, approaching Yi Chen. Yi Chen performed his separating shadow flying art to increase the distance between them. It was not yet the time for him to perform his lone peak kill. In fact, it was already unknown whether or not the lone peak kill would work. His opponent's half-step Yuan was not within his expectation, which had lowered the possibility of killing him with one attack. In everyone's sight, they could not even see a human figure on the vast battling platform. All they could see were piles of black smoke and human shadows flashing endlessly. The former was Yi Chen's separating shadow flying art. When pushed to its limit, the black shadow would be like smoke, leaving no trace behind. The latter was Sheng's teleportation art. Because of its extreme speed, it would only appear once in a while, making it hard to tell where it was. Lose! All of a sudden, Sheng flashed twice, and appeared not far away from Yi Chen, throwing out a punch that seemed to be able to break through the surreal space. Danger! Yi Chen's body turned into black smoke, disappearing with the wind. Pooh! Having lost its target, the fist power did not stop. It blew through the ceiling light wall, creating a huge hole. No way! The ceiling light wall has been broken through. Before, the ceiling light wall had been broken by the Qi tornado created by the two's attacks. It was just a small hole, which was not that big. Right now, Sheng had thrown out a punch and broken through the ceiling light wall all by himself, which made everyone open their eyes wide. They knew that it meant that Sheng's full power attack could already break through an early astral reaching realm warrior's protective Yuan layer. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.